Yeah. Yeah. All right, everybody. Welcome to an episode of the Cornerman with yours truly, Ryan the Mighty Quinn, and someone who really doesn't need an introduction, Big John McCarthy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Ryan. It's good to see you, man. You look good.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm healthy and happy, so to speak. But luckily we can only see from the chest up.
Well,
um, But so before we get into it, I did want to share. Yeah, I always get. Have you ever spoken with Big John McCarthy? I'm like, yeah, he's refed a few of my fights. But my favorite story with you is I remember you ref my fight against Waylon Lowe. We're in the rules meeting, or all right. This is how it works for those of you who don't know. Like your referee comes to you before, explains to you what he's looking for in a fight, in case you get into trouble or just things that he doesn't want to see you doing. Now in 2015, they implemented the John Jones rule. Um, what was the John Jones rule? You can't come forward like this. And you're explaining that to me with your fingers out in the event of an eye poke. So you're explaining that to me, and me being the dumbass I am, I explain, what if I'm going backwards? Do I have to close my fist? And you just go, just keep your fucking hands closed. And it's like, simple as that. Why'd I ask the question? So that was, just keep it simple, stupid. But yeah, and as I was saying before, you got the Weighing In podcast with Josh, and you guys have just awesome conversation. Absolutely love it. Let's talk a little bit about that. I just love how you guys break down technique, like what's going on in the fight world that people don't see, and fight nerds like myself can't get enough of it. Sometimes the casuals, they kind of bust your chops about it, right? What do you got to say about that?
Yeah, I love the casuals because it's
Mhm.
the people that have never really done the sport, have never been part of the sport, and never, you know, all they know is what they've been told through. Basically, they watch the UFC, and that's great. I have no problem with them. They
Mhm.
watch the UFC, but the UFC as a promotion, and it's what every business does. They put forward what they want. They try to rewrite history at time, and so it cracks me up when we have people. They'll say we have no idea what we're talking about. We're clueless in the sport and stuff. It's like yeah. Well, maybe we are, but maybe we aren't. Maybe you're the one that is. And so we just have fun with it. We started the whole podcast based on it was Josh was the one that asked me to do it because I had one before and I said I wasn't going to do that again. And
Mhm.
he, just at fights we would sit down and talk and we would go over things and as a fighter you have certain beliefs and perceptions of things. As the official, you might look at it different, and we would bounce those back and forth. And I would tell him, dude, you don't even know the rules of the damn sport. You're going to sit here and tell me this stuff. And he goes, what do you mean I don't know the rules? I said, okay, what's this? He goes, well, I don't know. I didn't have to know that. And
Yeah.
it's like, and it's just part of it. But we just have a good time. And what you see with us on the podcast, that's the way we are all the time with each other. All we do is pick and push buttons and screw with each other, but we have a good time because he's got thick skin, I've got thick skin, and we just have fun with it.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I was laughing listening to you guys once. I'm like, man, I need to have Josh on here, and I need to admit that I called him out on Twitter at least 3 times. So like, because like Josh being who he was and me where I was, like you're the guy I got to call out, but like I know that we can have fun with that. Actually, and speaking of the casuals, like I've actually, I've been out at the bar, like speaking with people. I don't want to be a dickhead either, where just get away. But I've actually had people ask me why I don't fight in the UFC, or just straight up tell me that I would never fight in the UFC. And I'm like, I mean, I fought like 7 guys that fought in the UFC. So like, it just, they don't understand, and it's just, and at that point you're like, yeah, there's a reason why I didn't want to have this conversation. But I really wish though that the casuals would like, you call yourself a fan of mixed martial arts, but you still want to just see the brawl and what's thrown in your mind. I wish that they would open up to that a little bit.
No, it's everything because it's
Mhm.
they basically a cage is not a cage, it's an octagon.
Mm.
That's UFC is in the octagon.
Mhm.
They're not fighting, and they're watching something that isn't even in an octagon, and they're like in the octagon. You go, that's a trademark for the UFC. And
Yeah.
again, I take nothing away, man. My hat is off to the UFC because they've done that job of marketing where they are
Mhm.
the Kleenex, they're the Band Aid. Those are brands, and they made themselves the brand of the sport, and so that's what people gravitate towards, and that's really all they know. And so if you're not part of that promotion, well, then you can't be any good. Where if you
Yeah.
understand sport, and if you go to any gym, you used to work out at ATT,
Mhm.
and you go to ATT, you could go to AKA, you could go to Extreme Couture, you could go up to TriStar, and you're going to get a bunch of guys from different promotions, and those guys all train together at times, and everyone knows there's no difference in the
Mhm.
top
Yeah.
level fighters, top level fighters. It doesn't matter who their promotion is; it's their skill level as a fighter. And sometimes it takes an actual bigger person as a fighter to sit there and say, I'm not worried about the letters of the promotion that I fight for. I'm worried about the numbers on the paycheck. And really, sometimes that's the difference. Some guys give up the numbers on the paycheck so they can be the person that the casual can say, well, where do you fight? I fight in the UFC. All of a sudden they
Mhm.
have validated. Where there's
Right.
I don't need that validation. I need to put a roof over my head and food on the table for my family, and it's a choice.
Man, we're all guilty of that early on. I was,
Sure.
when I was in my early 20s, to me, it was UFC or bust. But later on, especially like my last fight with Bellator, I went back to school, paid for my education, and I paid for my wedding. So I was a pretty happy camper. To me, like I got out on top. And I don't think people realize that, or even young fighters. I mean, and yes, you should be just shooting for the world, but at the end of the day, you got to pay the bills, and Bellator does a really good job of offering that. Both do, but yeah, Bellator. Like I was real happy where I was, and then you got the fighters too, who like they're not even signed. I call them black ops fighters because they're going all over the world fighting in Russia, Japan, where they're just. We had a couple of them at ATT. One of them comes to mind. His name was Gabriel Bogdan. He was this Hungarian guy who would just beat the crap out of everybody. He fought all over the planet. He never fought in Bellator or the UFC. There's fighters like this out there that you know don't go into the gym and pick with them because they're not in the UFC or Bellator because you got your money's worth, and they're
I
all over.
I tell people all the time. I said, look, I've been all over the world, and I've done small promotions. In the States, I've done big promotions. I've done small promotions all over the world, and I've done big promotions all over the world.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, there are fighters out there that you have never heard of that are killers. And
Yeah.
I can see people that are out there. They're not in Bellator and they're not in the
Mhm.
UFC, but I mean, they can fight with anybody in the top five of either promotion, and they will give them a go, if not beat them. And
Yep.
that's just the way the sport is, and that's what's actually
Mhm.
cool about the sport. And it's a matter of, look, Kayla Harrison. I
Mhm.
love her. She, you know her. She's trained at ATT. She's training at ATT there. She got offered a lot of money from Bellator, and the PFL matched it, which I
Mhm.
thought was great. I
Mhm.
don't look at. I say I need the PFL. I need
Mhm.
Bellator. I need the UFC. I need all of these places because I need fighters to have a place that they can go make money, earn their living. And so I don't want any of them to go away. So when the PFL matched that offer and made her a very wealthy person,
Mhm.
God bless her and God bless the PFL for doing it. It's awesome. And that's the way fighters should be doing stuff. Put yourself in a position where people want you, you have value, they offer you for that value, and then your promotion that is working, you're working with now can sit there and say, I'll match that because I believe you're worth that value too, and I want to keep you. That's what it's about.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We need somewhere to go. Like that's another thing, and this is probably a whole nother conversation, but we'll be quick about it. Like I know it goes in and out the conversation of fighters being unionized. And yeah, that sounds great, but I feel like a promotion like the UFC would have no problem. I mean, look what happened in Jacksonville. Thank God they did it. But they just threw fighters on there, and I think that that's what would happen. And what happens when you throw, unfortunately, lesser fighters in this big area with the spotlights on, you're going to see the brawling and stuff, and that's what the casuals want to see. So like, I don't think that worries me a little bit, like because they have the right to go on strike. Big promotions have the right to go on strike and just throw out these total scraps where people are like, and it'll last a little bit too, like 2 or 3 months. Oh well, what do we need these world class athletes for when we got these guys trying to kill each other and it's great, What do you think about that?
Absolutely true. And it's, but
Mhm.
it's like you're saying, like everyone likes to see the war, but
Mhm.
for the fighter, the war is never good. You can
No.
only, and I tell people, it's like you can only crash your car so many times before it's a piece of crap. All
Yep.
right. That's what it's like for the fighters going in. There are times when fighters go into the cage and, you went into the cage and you had a great performance. You didn't hardly get touched. You were absolutely just as good walking out of the cage as you were when you went in. And
Mhm.
then you had those fights where it was a little bit different from that. It wasn't that, you didn't get touched. You got touched a lot. And you know what? You got damaged. And then there's those fights where you get seriously hurt, and it takes you a long time to recover. And you can only do that so many times. So it's great that the, fans like to see those, you know, epic wars, but the fighter
Mhm.
can do so many of them before the fighter's not the same. And then they can't make the same money because their record starts to go down. And, I say it all the time. You'll watch a fighter have one of those wars, and sometimes it's the referee that allows it to go on, and sometimes allows it to go on too long. And
Yeah.
you go, you just affected that man's career because he's never going to be the same. And I can point out ones where I've said it, and that fighter at this point, it's maybe 1 in 5 cents that time.
Phew.
All part of it. It's all part of it. So, yeah, it's rough with the casual fans. They want those wars. I always look for the technical wars. That's the ones that make me excited. One of the fights I wanted to do and I got it because I don't get to pick
Mm.
was and Maya was gonna fight Gunnar Nelson, and all of us, Mark Goddard, Herb Dean, me, we're all like, I want that fight. Right. And I got it. And they go, oh, you fucking asshole. Right. And I go, that's so cool. I got that because it was going to be a technical war on the ground, which we all love, and that's the way the sport should be is you look at the technicalities. Sometimes you'll get the wars, but when you get those technical wars, those technical battles, those are the best.
Man, you just led into my next question was when you're refing, like I always wondered because I remember you refed Robbie and Rory too. And I was like, man, and like that's another one, a slobber knocker basically. But like, so you want to ref those fights. Like you don't want to be able to sit back and watch this. Like you want to ref those big fights.
Absolutely. And that's what you're there for. You want to have the fights that are ones that there can be problems, ones that can be
Mm.
different, ones where you look and say, I think I can make the right decisions if something happens in this and lead this through to a natural conclusion, be it, either guy winning, knockout, decisions, whatever it is. But I always tell, I tell referees all the time, look, you just had the Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza fight. It wasn't a
Hmm.
good fight. And let's
Yeah.
just be, you know,
Hmm.
there's reasons why it wasn't good. Keith Peterson kind of got some flack for, oh, you should have done more. You should have said more. You should have, given timidity fouls, all those things. He could have done that. But the one thing I can guarantee you is no referee can make a bad fight good. But a lot of referees can make a good fight bad. And
Mm.
so what you're looking for in those situations, you're looking for the ones like the Robbie Lawler and Roy McDonald, where you have a lot of decisions to be made that everybody out in the arena, everyone watching on TV, they have no idea about. They have no idea what the problems are. They're having fun watching the fight. They're excited. It's great. But they don't realize the real complexities that are happening. And you're the one that's dealing with those and making hopefully the right decisions.
I remember when because like I said, you ref Robbie and Rory. The week later, you were reffing me and Waylon. And I remember my corner goes to you. He says, hey, John, that was a great no stop with Robbie and Rory. And then you went into detail as to why. And it's so true. If that's a bad referee, Robbie's getting knocked out in round two or round three. I think it was round two. So yeah, absolutely. It's you can make a fight bad. Um, awesome. Yeah, that's stuff I wanted to touch on. The other thing I wanted to ask you, going back to the podcast, is you get some flack sometimes, especially with Aljamain Sterling with what you said. And I thought you handled it well. I knew exactly what you were getting at. And I totally agreed with you with what you said about Paddy Pimblett with his competition in Cage Warriors, because I was saying the same thing. How I remember when they built Connor, they didn't throw him into a top 15 opponent right away either. And What do you have to say when some of the fighters have some stuff to say about the flack you give?
Hey, that they can come back and say what they believe, and it's okay. The one thing I never do is I never try to pick on a fighter as
Mm,
far anything as far as their the way they fought or anything like that. I'll never say anything bad about it because hey, they're going in there and they're putting it on the line. And sometimes you have a good night, sometimes you don't. So I always try to make it to where hey, I'm not going to say anything about your performance. The thing that happened with Aljamain is he got upset when I said that in that fight with his first one with Jan, hey, you were listening, you heard, and you decided to go through with the no decision, or I mean the disqualification thing. That was all kind of part of you were laying right there as the referee made a mistake, and really
mm,
it wasn't your choice. My thing is, I said the referee did not make the proper choice in giving that disqualification. Just think about it, Ryan. The sport at that time been around for 28 years now.
yes.
Okay, that's the first title that was ever handed to a fighter by a referee. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that there cannot be situations for that, but the problem with what we have, and this is what Aljamain got upset with, is he did get fouled. I didn't
Mm,
say he got blasted. I'm going to say it right now. Like he took a hard knee.
mm,
Problem with it is you look at any other sport. Take a look at football, basketball, baseball, even boxing. We have what are penalties or fouls in all of them. Okay.
yes.
Which one do you lose the entire game? Do you lose the Super Bowl because someone, you know, stuffs the quarterback or any of these things?
Mm,
No, you don't lose the entire game. You don't lose the championship because
yeah.
not a good look for the sport. It's not a good look for the fighters. It's not a good look for the promotion. You
Hmm.
know, no matter what, the UFC doesn't want their title being changed hands by a referee. That
Hmm.
doesn't look good at them. So when you're looking at the fouls and you look at the fouls of MMA, are there things that I would have said that Mark Smith could have disqualified someone for and handed a title? Yes, there are. Those flagrant, intentional things that don't happen hardly ever, not the ones that happen all the time. We get people either kneed or kicked to the head on the ground all the time in
Hmm.
MMA based upon many times the fighter not truly understanding the rule, two, not understanding that their opponent is actually down because they can't see them put a hand down in the position that they're at or something like that. And so they do something. Yes, there's intent as far as it's an intentional action for them to throw that knee or that kick, but there's no intent to actually foul. They're not trying to foul. They believe at the time that they're doing it, it's proper and legal. So now we're going to take and give them a loss and take a title away off of something like that. That's not intelligent, in my opinion. It should have been handled differently. It should have been where you were in the fourth round. You could have gone to the scorecards. And
Yeah.
I said at the time, I thought it would have looked a lot better for Aljamain if Aljamain was
Mm,
ahead. For it's okay if he wins the title that way. People will accept it. They're not going to accept the way that he got it, and he was mad about that. He can be mad about it. It's okay. I have nothing against him. I think he's a phenomenal fighter. I love watching him. He is skilled. He is good, and
You
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 know,
didn't even say anything about him though. You were talking more about the system.
no, nothing to do with him.
Maybe
He's taking it
yeah.
personal. It's okay.
Maybe it's just defensive because he didn't want to go down there either that way. Um, yeah, no, I mean, I think that was a great clarification. I hope that people get into like, there's things that need to be fixed, or there's things that we want fixed as well. Like it's not all cut and dry for any of us. All right, so who are you looking forward to most this weekend? Calling the fights for Bellator.
Oh my God. I am looking forward to the Logan Storley and MVP fight just because it's a clash of style. You
Yes.
know, and it's so different because you'll get guys. Logan obviously coming from a wrestling background his entire life. He's the only guy I know that was a six-time state champion because he wrestled in the straight against a senior and won. But I mean, the guy, as far as transitioning from wrestling into MMA, his wrestling is phenomenal in MMA. A lot of guys that doesn't transfer over the same.
Mhm.
He done it well in his last fight with Naaman Gracie. I thought he looked absolutely great. I mean, he took a lot of shots, but he gave a lot, and he showed that, you know what, I can stay on my feet. I can use my stand up, and I can take you to the ground at any time I want. So, that fight right there had to put, now that MVP is going to be fighting him, he's going back looking at it, going, that is a problem for me. I have to do damage to this guy and do it fairly early and to slow him down and make him not want to take those shots and make him play my game. So there's a real story behind it as far as the contrast in styles that I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I agree with you on that with the transition. I know exactly what you mean with coming from a wrestling background. I know exactly what you mean with not being able to transition because it's uh, a lot of people they don't do it well. They're so quick to eventually just shoot, and then dive to their knees and hope for a takedown. Not having confidence in their stand up to get to the takedown, and I do think that because sometimes MVP he gives that little step, that back step a little bit to set up a straight like a counter right. And Logan doesn't bite on that stuff so much. I think that he's going to do a very good job with stalking, with lateral foot movement, not getting into that range game, and we'll see. It's going to be, I mean, a cliche, but it is going to be the game of inches, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That middle ground is where we're going to see who's going to score and who's going to get taken down, who's going to striking. Is Logan going to is he going to fake the takedown? And I'm really looking forward to that fight too. Regardless, I'm really looking forward to that fight too. And Rob Whiteford, Rob's my buddy. I'm really looking forward to seeing him fighting. He has underrated hands, I feel, as a grappler, and I love seeing Rob fight. So it's going
Rob,
to be a great card.
Rob's got a tough fight, man. He's got a tough
Yeah,
fight. That is not an easy opponent to go against. So,
no, yeah, I'm going to stand with my boy. I'm sticking with my main man though. That's how I got it.
oh,
But John, this is great. I'm so happy you did this. I know you're a busy man out there in London. We're going to be watching you guys on Friday, and I really would love to have you on again. Please pass the word to Josh. I gotta admit to my call outs via Twitter, the like everyone else, and I really wish you nothing but the best, and have a great weekend of the fights.
thank you much, Ryan. Anytime, man, you need something, just let me know, man. You're awesome.
You got it. Thanks, John.
Better, bud.
Yeah. Yeah.